person. But tonight, you start off the chapter the same way you start off a lot of chapters in this book. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. I don't know. We'll never know this side of heaven if we know. In heaven, maybe we'll, maybe we won't. But why the times varied, that they were in bondage, that they were subservient to the people around them. But here they're in bondage, for lack of a better word, 40 years. That's an entire generation of people. 40 years. A long time. They did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And in 40 years, think about how degenerate they must have been after 40 years of being in that situation. If they did evil and God said, fine, you want it, go get it. They had an entire 40 years. You think of what's happened in our country in the last 20 years. I mean, from 9/11, and I know it was before that, but at 9/11, we were shaken. And was it a wake-up call from God? I don't know. I don't know that what happened was a wake-up call, but I know that it was used as a wake-up call to say, hey, you need to turn. And for churches, I remember people calling the church and asking if it was going to be open for prayer, and I was out lowering the flag to half-mast, and the newspaper rode by and took a picture of me lowering the flag and asked me about the church. I said, yeah, we're going to be open. People want to come in and pray. And, all over the country, you had liberals standing on the steps of the Capitol, holding hands with conservatives, and they were all singing Amazing Grace and God Bless America and things like that. Unbelievable. That lasted, a month? I mean, honestly, it lasted about a month because I know those of us who care about spiritual matters and care about the spiritual temperature of our country, we thought, hey, this is a terrible thing, but look at what people are doing. They're saying, let's get in church. It seemed like revival was going to happen, and it didn't. And you got to think, man, what in the world? And you look at the situation we're in right now with what's going on. I just don't think it's going to make that big a difference spiritually in our country. I think, and I don't want to be a doomsdayer. I just think we're beyond. I think we're beyond I know this is, God can do anything, but look at the children of Israel. I think without a major turn of the Christians in this country, we're just about beyond the reach of God. And I know we're not beyond the reach of God. But God's not going to throw the fishing line way out there and say, hey, come on back. We've got to make a turn. If my people, which are called by my name, will turn, if they'll turn, if they'll do what they're supposed to do, then I'll act. Well, it doesn't seem to be happening. That was bonus material, okay? So we get in tonight, Samson's godly parents. In the midst of this, and the children of Israel did evil again for 40 years. Verse 2, there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, behold now, thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb. And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Okay, we're going to stop right there. We're not going to get into what a Nazarite is tonight. We'll talk about that next week as we introduce Samson. We look at his birth and his early life. We'll talk about what a Nazarite is. We'll look at his parents tonight. We don't often talk about Samson's parents because Samson is the overwhelming character in the story. He is the guy who is the the strongest man who's ever lived, and he killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey, and he did all these crazy things, and so he just kind of overwhelms the story. But we'll look at his parents here. In the middle of a wicked country where God had said, you walk away, fine, I'll do the same thing. And he basically just gave them over. I don't believe in that 40 years that there was a move of God. I don't believe that there was a revival that took place. I don't believe what we would call a revival. It doesn't seem that there was anything good happening. Yet in this, the angel of the Lord comes. And we look, number one, at his mother. His mother. And I don't understand this, but she was unnamed. That's your first letter A there. She was unnamed. We've got the name of the dad, Manoah. We've got him, but Mama's unnamed. We don't know her name. And it's kind of sad that, to me, it's a little disappointing that we don't know her name. I would like to know the name of this great woman. Because to me, she is a great woman. And we'll look at that. We don't know her name, but we do know her character. We know her character. Here she is in a wicked country of God's people. She can't have a baby. Manoah's name, the family name in his line, is going to end right here. That's hard enough these days. That's hard enough to take for men these days. If the family name, at least you're part of it, if the family name is going to end, that's a difficult thing. I don't have to worry about that, but I know that for men who have dealt with that, that's a tough thing. Think that in this day, that was a blot on you. That was a blot on you and your family if you could not bear a son. And here she is barren. I'm sure that there were things that she was bitter about. I don't want to say bitter's too harsh of a word. That she was upset about with that. I'm not going to step out and say she was bitter and mad at God or anything like that. But I'm sure she was disappointed that she was not able to give Manoah a child, particularly a son. She was barren. But look at what happens. Now, this is in a land, a time where God is not working. And the angel of the Lord appeared, verse 3, unto the woman, said unto her, boom, 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 all these things, okay? Then the woman came and told her husband, verse 6, okay? Verse 6, she came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible or very awesome. Not like scary, like we think of the devil or anything like that, but just awesome. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told me his name. In the midst of all this, she still recognized the work of God. There was nothing like this happening in the country for 40 years. God pulled his hand away. He wasn't moving. He wasn't asking. He wasn't pleading with people. He just washed his hands almost completely of them. There was no preacher at the local whatever preaching. There was nothing happening in the country. Yet this woman, who we don't know her name, remained close enough to God in this. There was a remnant. There was still a remnant. She remained close enough to God that when God appeared to her, she said, hey, that's a man of God. That's someone that God is using. I really believe that she was not like everybody else. I believe she was different. She and Manoah both were different. They were at least somewhat. Now, I guess to some people, God leaves a perspective. To the drug addict, anybody that goes to church is godly, I guess. But to to the brand new Christian, the Christian that's been saved for 10 years, is godly no matter what they're doing. You know, they come to church, they carry their Bible, they've got a Bible that's worn. So they're godly. And so I guess, to us, godly is perspective. But God speaks to this woman and says she recognized the angel of the Lord. I don't think if she had been away from God and pushing God aside that she would have recognized that. I also don't know that God would have come to her that way if she had done that. She reacted properly. She reacted properly. Y'all remember Sarah? When God came and told Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a son, what did Sarah do? She laughed. You're crazy. I hadn't had a son. I'm old and I hadn't had a son. You're crazy. That is so funny to me. That's not what she did. Now, again, we don't have the age of this woman. But she was barren. And God came. She recognized it's God, which Abraham and Sarah knew it was God working. She recognized it. And what does she do? She ran to her husband. She didn't act like Sarah. She didn't say, I'm too old, this isn't going to happen. She ran to her husband to tell her love what had happened. She ran to the most important person in her life and said, honey, you're not going to believe this. I saw a man, and it was a man of God because he had a face like an angel of God. It was awesome. And here's what he told me, verse 7. He said, behold, you'll conceive, bear a son. Don't drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing, for you shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. And what a great woman. What a great woman. She was discerning. And we'll get to that in a little while, okay? I'll come back to she was discerning, but go ahead and write it down that she was discerning. And lastly, she honored the Lord's word. The Lord said to her, beware, I pray thee, drink not wine or strong drink, eat not any unclean thing. Don't cut his hair or anything like that, for he's a Nazarite. It appears that she followed the directions because there's no blot on his Nazarite until he messes up. She heeded the word of the Lord and said, all right, I'm going to do exactly what the Lord has asked me to do. I think his mom was a godly mom. I'd like to know her name, and hopefully when we get to heaven, we'll find out what her name was or what it is. So we have his mother. Second of all, of course, we have his father. And here's why, I give you reasons here why I believe that he's a godly man. Whenever she comes to him, verse 7, think about this. God hasn't worked in 40 years. Hasn't shown his face. As we say in the country, no hiding her hair. Nothing. And your wife comes to you and says, hey, the angel of God came to me and told me I'm going to have a son. Not only that, I'm not supposed to drink anything, wine or strong drink. I'm not supposed to eat anything unclean. You get the idea that there was a lot of eating the unclean thing going on in the country by that statement. And he's going to be a Nazarite. Manoah doesn't go, woman, you're crazy. What are you thinking? Have you been drinking the strong drink this morning? Is that the problem? He doesn't do any of that. Look at verse 8. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again to us. He believed her. He did not say, you're crazy. What have you been drinking or whatever? I can't believe this. I got work to do. Leave me alone. Go tell your mama about it. I got no time for the drama, okay? He didn't say any of that. He said, oh man, that's awesome. And he entreats the Lord. He asked the Lord for a couple of things. He didn't respond and say, my wife has lost it, man. This is it. She's gone off the deep end. No, he said, verse 8, he entreated the Lord. He prayed to the Lord and said, oh, my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again to us. He asked for the man for another visit from the one who had come. He wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to be in on the move of God. He said, oh God, do it again. Show me what you've shown my wife for a visit. And he asked for instructions. He says, oh my, we're going to raise a Nazarite. We're going to have a kid. We're going to have a boy, and he's going to be a Nazarite, and there's all these restrictions on him. Lord, I'm asking you, would you do something? Would you help? Would you send the man and give us some more instructions? Help us to understand how to raise this child. You get the idea that this was a man who had not forgotten about God. Although there was a wicked, wicked nation, a nation that had walked away from God and everything about him, yet these two still remained. I personally believe, as of yet, I have nothing to base this on other than a belief, just their life. I think they're greater than 40 years of age. I think they're on up in years, comparatively. Because I think they're a remnant of the time before the Philistines invaded. I think they remember the times that God did work, that God delivered them, and they remembered the stories, and they were a part of it. And they had seen the battles that had taken place. And they said, well, maybe God will do it again. Let's just hang on. Let's just hang on. Let's just hang on. And maybe God will do it again. And in some ways, that's kind of what we do. I mean, let's just face it. We don't live in a righteous nation. You know, we like to call ourselves a Christian nation. But there's very little about this nation that's Christian. Very little. And I've said this before, my sociology professor, who used to be part of the CIA, has been to the United Nations, yada, yada, yada. And he said in the United Nations, every member of the United Nations, they're in this book, and it gives the statistics about that country, lists their official religion, and for the United States of America, and this was in 1994, 5, somewhere in there, so a millennia ago, I guess. The United States religion was paganism, not Christian. In the 90s, was listed as paganism. So in a lot of ways, we're just kind of hanging on, hoping God will do something again. Looking for that. And that's what they were doing, I think. He entreated the angel of the Lord. But I want you to see these things. Letter D, he was misguided. Even the greatest sometimes make mistakes. So Manoah entreated. God hearkened to the voice of Manoah in verse 9. The angel of the Lord came to her again. She was in the field. Verse 10, she made haste, ran to him, said, come. Verse 11, he runs to see the angel. And he said to him, art thou the man that spoke to my wife? He said, I am. He said, let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? And the angel of the Lord basically repeated what he had said. And then verse 15, and Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we have made ready a kid for thee. Now this is an angel of the Lord. This is a representative of the Lord. Okay? And he says, look, this is great news. We want to hold you here. We want to fellowship with you, and we want to worship you. Verse 16, the angel said unto Manoah, though thou detain me, I will not eat thy bread. If thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord. See, as good as he was, he didn't heed his wife's words. His wife said it was a man of God. It was an angel from God. Because he was awesome. It says here, he still didn't understand that it was an angel of the Lord. He just thought this was, this is a man from God who's coming to offer something. The angel says, if you're going to do this, you better be offering it to the Lord, not to me. And so even in that, he was a little misguided, and sometimes we get that way. We get caught up in the emotion of a service or the emotion of an event in our lives, good or bad, and we want to direct our attention in the wrong place. Sometimes we have a man come along. Think about April talking about my dad, the man talking about my dad. And I agree, my dad's a good man. But my dad would not want that man to make more of him than he would of God. And whenever we come to a situation, someone has helped us in our life, and they are, if you will, a hero or a heroine in our life, we ought not say, oh, they made the difference in my life. Be careful about that. Careful about that. May we have the attitude and the thought process that God used them to make a difference in my life. And here Manoah gets a little misguided in that. He says, oh, you. He doesn't even know who it is exactly. But he says, we want to worship you. And he says, I'm not going to eat bread with you. And if you're going to offer something, you better offer it to God. You better offer it to the Lord. We get a little, sometimes in our lives, when we are the ones who have been a help to somebody, or as a preacher, preach a good sermon. And somebody comes by and says, that just blessed my heart. You got to be careful not to say, I did good, didn't I? Because next week's going to be a flop. You got to be careful not to say, well, look what I did. Boy, I sure was, man, it felt good to be a help. And it does feel good to be a help. But got to be careful not to take the credit for something that God did through me. Just be thankful that God could do anything with and through me. So he was a little bit misguided. And then lastly, and this is where I wanted to come back to with her. She was discerning in this, okay? Right here. Letter E, he was mistaken. Came to pass. This is pretty amazing what happens. So, angel Lord said unto him, why ask us? Let me go back. Verse 17. Manoah said unto the angel, what is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor. Angel Lord said unto him, why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? He says, listen, don't worry about all this. If you're going to offer to the Lord. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about my name. You need to be right with God. Even though it's the angel of the Lord talking, he says, you need to be right with God. Make it right with God. That's all you need to do. Verse 19, Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it upon a rock to the Lord, and the angel did wondrously. Well, what did he do? Verse 20, for it came to pass when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. Imagine that. Imagine that. But the angel did wondrously. He ascended with the flame. And Manoah said unto his wife, this is interesting. Manoah said to his wife, we're going to die. After the angel of the Lord has made a statement, you're going to bear a son, and he's going to be a Nazarite, and you're going to do all these things. I guess maybe we men just forget things like that. I don't know. But the angel does all this. Verse 22, Manoah said unto his wife, we shall surely die because we've seen God. The whole mood turns. It turns back on him. Oh no, we're going to die. And this is where she's discerning. Manoah wasn't discerning. He said, oh no, we're going to die. We've seen God and now we're going to die. His wife said unto him, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meat offering at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all these things, nor would, as at this time, have told us such things as these. What a good woman. Manoah is feeling sorry for himself. He just got the good news that he's going to have a son, and now he's going to die because he saw the Lord. Lost all perspective. In the midst of this great emotional experience, the angel ascends to heaven and they fall on their faces. I can't do it right here, but can you imagine they're on their faces. It says they fell on their faces. And it's like while he's down there worshiping, he goes, oh no. He looks over and says, we're going to die. We've bowed ourselves down here to God and now we're just going to die. And she says, shut up. Have you not paid attention to anything? She says, if he were going to kill us, he wouldn't have received an offering from us. And if he were going to kill us, why would he tell us all these things that are going to come true? Yeah, we all have our problems. We have our issues. Manoah had his issues. Manoah may have been a little bit more upset about not having a son than his wife was, because it was his line that was coming to an end. And he hears this word, and oh man, the emotion of it, and all of a sudden he realizes, we just saw the angel of God, and no man seeth God and lives, and we're going to die. Oh no, what are we going to do? No, you're going to have a son. Keep the right perspective. So often when I study and we see the judges, Joshua, Judges, I think about what my dad always says to us. I say always, doesn't always say it, but one thing he's said many, many times, two of the hardest things in life to achieve are balance and consistency. It's just hard to achieve. Balance and consistency. And when you look at this man right here, who had, it seems, not gone off the deep end, worshipped idols, had remained close to God. Here he is, man, high, low, and all of a sudden, oh no, we're going to die. No. Find some balance and be consistent in it. And good news, in the midst of a wicked generation, there were some godly parents who would raise a son. No, he wasn't godly, he still did a great work for God and for the people. And we start next week looking at Samson and the tragedy that was Samson. I know we all know the story, but hopefully we can pull some new things out of it. Lord, I thank you for your word. Thank you for the opportunity to come in and study in your house. And Lord, I mean that. To be able to come into your house and study, Lord, is such a blessing. And may we not ever take it for granted again. Lord, I do pray that you would bring revival to our churches, to the Christians. Lord, if you bring revival, if we will humble ourselves and turn from our wicked ways and pray and seek your face and all those things, you'll give that revival. But Lord, may we do that. And may it start right here and spread. Not for our glory, but Lord, it's got to start somewhere. So why not right here? May we go out from this place and be godly people. In Jesus' name, amen.